Hey everybody, Darren with the White Hatter, and welcome to today's Thinkable Thursday. And today we have got just an excellent guest. It's Scheff, and she has written a book, Shame Nation, and we're going to be talking to her and everything about her book in just a little bit. Everybody, let's bring Sue into the scene. Let's talk a little bit about who she is. So here she is right there. She's from the US, and there's her website. I strongly recommend everybody who's online right now, who's watching us, to check out her website. And she's just written an excellent, excellent book called Shame Nation. You just saw me lift it here. So let's bring her into the scene. There she is. Good morning, Sue. Good morning on the West Coast, where I'm located of Canada. Got your book, read it when it first came out a number of years ago. How are you today?
Very good, and thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here. I'm a great fan of yours, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Where are you located in the United States?
I'm actually in North Florida now, in Ponte Vedra Beach, if anybody knows where that is, in North Florida.
And how's COVID going on down there for you guys? Are you making it through?
And that's why I specifically said North Florida. It's not as bad where we are. South Florida is a little bit worse, but we are making it.
Excellent. Well, why don't we share with our audience who you are and how you came about doing what it is that you do. Let's hear from you.
Well, I am an author of Shame Nation. I'm the founder of Parents Universal Resources, which I help parents of struggling teens find residential therapy, therapeutic boarding schools, and that's at helpyourteens.com. That's what I always call like my real occupation, so to speak, as an educational consultant. But my real passion is I'm a writer. I write for Psychology Today, Huffington Post, Parenology, etc. And that's where Shame Nation is my third book. And I do it because I am passionate and because of what happened to me years ago when I was shamed, humiliated, and cyberbullied online.
Yeah, it's an excellent read. I mean, I really love authors who bring life stories and experience into their books. It's one of my favorite reads of a lot of the books that I have. And speaking of books, it kind of dovetails very nicely into the first question I have for you. So here's the first question. What moved you to write your book on Shame Nation? You kind of already hinted to that a little bit, so let's build upon that a little bit more.
Right. Well, after I wrote my second book, Google Bomb, which was how I won an $11.3 million internet defamation case. It was actually a landmark case. One of the
Did
first.
You just say 11.3 million?
11.3 million, yes.
Wow.
Internet Now, I didn't collect that money, so I don't.
That was my next question. Did you collect?
No, it was on paper. But it was monumental in the fact that for anyone out there that has been bullied, defamed, slandered, harassed online, it was vindication. But Lady Justice doesn't. I mean, Lady Justice clears your name, but the internet never forgets. And this is something that really lingered on after I wrote the book. I was bombarded. I was shocked because, listen, over a decade ago when I won the case in 2006, and then years after that, I was getting letters from everyday people, from average people, from teachers, from lawyers, from doctors, from housewives, from dog groomers, people that were bullied. These are adults too, that were struggling to get through life, but they were being harassed online. They were being bullied online. Their businesses were destroyed, just like what happened to me. And then that compounded with headlines of young people that were not only being bullied online, but were taking their lives. For example, we look at Tyler Clemente. We look at Amanda Todd up in your country. And then right here in my own state was Rebecca Sedgwick. And I'm thinking, you know what? I have to take this a step further. It's not only about winning a big case and being this person out there that people were looking up to and coming to as, what can I do? I had to write a book about surviving, overcoming, and preventing online bullying and shaming. And it's basically about surviving it and overcoming it. And that's what you read in Shame Nation. It's not only about the stories of all of us out there, but it's how do we get through this together? Because you're not alone. That was one thing I felt when I was going through this, was completely alone.
Yeah. People go, oh, it's just easy to write a book. Oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. Not so easy. We've written a book and been published as well. How long did it take you to actually write the book to the point that you started writing to the point where you finally published it?
At least 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
minimum. Yeah,
Uh,
it's a long process
yeah.
because it's a difficult process too, because you want to get it right. And there's some really sensitive stories in there. Some people didn't want to be named because it's hard to go back and tell your story. And I will tell you, it was even harder to write Google Bomb because that was my personal story. So I knew in telling other people's story that it was going to be a process.
Yeah, you know what? I can't recommend it enough to people who are watching. There it is, Shame Nation. You can order it right off of our website. Just go to resources, parents, scroll down to books, and it's right there on our website. But let's ask the next question. Here we go. Is public shaming ever acceptable? And is there a difference between justifiable shaming and unjustifiable shaming? And what is the tipping point between the two? Now, the reason I bring that up is a really good example is, I don't know recently if you saw, it happened about a week and a half ago. A young girl was going into a gas station to fill up a minivan. And it was her first time driving. She had never driven before, and so she didn't know where to put the gas nozzle into the van. So she parked in front of the gas pump. She couldn't find it, so she drove the car around, tried it again, drove the car around, and it was quite clear she was frustrated, didn't know what she was doing. Well, somebody covertly videotaped her doing that and then put it online, and it went viral. We're talking around the world. And as a result of that, she started getting shamed online. People were making fun of her. People figured out who she was. They were phoning her, knocking on her door to interview her. It was just brutal about what happened. But you compare that to what I did. My father, about a year and a half ago, retired Navy veteran. He had a significant infection in his leg. It got really bad, so he ended up taken to the emergency. They admitted him in the emergency. They said they were going to keep him because they had to put him on a specific antibiotic that they could only do in the hospital because it was life-threatening. And so they put him into a hallway for like 5 days. I'm thinking, what's going on? And so I tried to go up the chain of command at the hospital, and we got no joy, nothing from them. So I said, enough. So I went into my social media feeds, because I have a significant following, and started texting and twittering about what was going on. Within a day, he was in a private room. So let's hear your thoughts. Is there a difference between the two, and what is that tipping point?
Well, there's absolutely there is such thing as shaming for good. There is no doubt about it, but there is a very gray line there.
Yeah.
We should never cyber shame someone unless we're absolutely sure that they're guilty of doing something wrong, such as that woman at the gas station. Like, we just ruined her life, because this is what's going to happen. We are living in this country, in this world, so to speak, of aim and shame. Right away, aim and shame. Quick to judge, slow to consider. And we are destroying people's lives. Not only that person at the gas station, but we're looking at this across the country, across the world, wherever we're at. We take, for instance, we have Permit Patty, Barbecue Becky, Patrol Paula. I mean, they're all across wherever they are in this country, in this world. And not all of them were making big digital blunders. And I know there's some of them out there that are completely guilty, but not all of them. If you read my book, you have the woman that was really frustrated one day she was driving a Mercedes. I don't care what she was driving. And these bikers, when I say bikers, someone riding a bicycle, were coming up on her, and she slammed on her brakes, and she gave them the finger. She flipped them the finger. Well, don't you know what these bikers did? They took down her license plate. They started harassing her. The same thing what you're just talking about, the gas station woman, and they started doxing her. Somebody literally ran her license plate, found out where she worked, tried to get her fired, all because she flipped them finger. Now, I'm not saying flipping of the finger is right, bad, or indifferent. Who knows, maybe she was having a bad day. We all have them. We all have something going on in our lives that we might be stressed out. The fact of the matter is, don't be so quick to judge and slow to consider what's going on in her life or whatever, because we're all going to be there someday of having that bad day, right? But again, we're living in this society of aim and shame. I will share with you, in writing Shame Nation, it really took me back to pausing in my real life. Everything I do offline, everything, when I drive, when I stop at a red light, if somebody angers me, I don't do anything. Same thing if you're in a check. I mean, not that anyone's shopping anymore, but when you go out, like during the Christmas holidays, I was writing the book. I am so careful. I am so mindful of my own behavior now, because I know we are all a click away from digital disgrace. That is the society that we now live in today.
So
but as far as
yep. Go ahead.
No, as far as shaming for good, we saw shaming for good when it came to the EpiPen, when they tried price gouging us. Same thing with your father. I don't know if you recall when the Department of Transportation did the hashtag Just Drive for distracted driving. That was great. Do you know what they called that? Instead of naming and shaming the people, educational messaging. And their statistics actually showed that distracted driving went down because they were calling out people that were texting and driving. Yeah. Texting, I'm really passionate about this. Texting and driving kills the same way as drunk driving does. Yep. No doubt about it.
Yeah, for sure. Just two things. You mentioned when you go out, you always think you're on camera. That's why Brandon and I, we make a clear distinction. There is no difference between the online world and the offline world, right? We call it the on-life world now, right? Because that's what it is. And especially to the kids. And this is one of the things when I talk to kids, they say is frustrating to them is that, you boomers, because they call us boomers, right? They say, you boomers, you guys still see a difference between the online world and the offline world. To us, it's just one world. And that's where this sociologist from Europe, he came up with the term the on-life world. And they're so right? It's so blended now. Number two, some of the shaming can be specifically done on purpose. Good example, we were at a couple schools where students will work in teams of 3, where you got one student who will target a teacher to get them verbally agitated, and then the second student will have a video camera that is covertly hidden and recording. The whole purpose is to get the teacher to act out, to say or do something they shouldn't have done out of anger and frustration. They then videotape it and then they put it on YouTube, which now means poor principals have nothing else they can do but to take corrective action because, like it or not, the teacher said and did something, but it was done on purpose.
Darren, all these letters, emails I get are confidential. I have emails, letters from principals, from teachers that have literally lost their jobs, from students that have set them up in these most cruel and unusual ways. Teachers, I feel bad for them. I wouldn't want to be them because of technology today and what kids can do. And, one teacher was accused of all sorts of behavior. Same thing with principals today can be accused of all sorts of stuff. It's a very fine line. We all have to walk today because of technology and this aim and shame world.
Yeah, the kids call it teacher baiting is what they call it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And stuff. So, which kind of leads into the next question I have for you, which is, with the rise of COVID-19, we've seen an increase in the hashtag COVIDiots and a rise in the on-life shaming surrounding the wearing or not wearing of masks. Your thoughts? Notice how I use the term on life, right? On life,
yes.
right? On life.
I saw that.
What are some of your thoughts on this? Because it's significant, right?
Yes. Well, first of all, I believe in wearing a mask, to make that clear. But let me just share that mass shaming anyone is not going to change behavior. Period. It's not. Where we do find that some behavior has been changing is if you're going to, I hate to use the word shaming as much as bringing awareness to an issue. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you a great example. Whether it's mass shaming, social distance shaming, when the media went out there and took images of our beaches, not only the Florida beaches, the California beaches, and people were they're not wearing masks, they're not social distancing. This was like early April. Everyone is crowding, and we were supposed to be social distancing. Mm-hmm. Immediately, the governor stepped up to the plate, closed all beaches. And why was this? It's because everyone out there, and I don't believe in naming and shaming people individually, but I think if you're doing it as a group, generalizing, like look at what Florida is doing. Look at what California is doing as far as, gathering in crowds as everyone is supposed to be social distancing. I thought that was for the greater good of our state to shut down the beaches because people were not being mindful, were not being socially responsible. Do I believe in pointing a finger at someone in the grocery store? Hey, where's your mask? No, I've actually was in Home Depot a couple weeks ago. Masks are mandated, and someone was not wearing a mask. Did I point them out? I did not, but another woman did, and she started yelling. It was a man. She started yelling at this man. He did have a health reason. He was very polite. He was very kind. She went and she got a manager. I personally wouldn't do it. And believe it or not, there's someone else in the corner with their cell phone up recording the whole thing. It's not, I don't believe in neighbors policing neighbors. I don't want to be judge and jury of anyone because I don't want anyone to ever be judge and jury of me if I'm having a bad day. So I just step aside. But I think generally, if we put it out there as this is what it's supposed to do, and you take a picture of like faded faces or whatever, what they did, exactly what they did. But what's interesting, I don't know if you caught it, I wrote an article in Psychology Today about all this. And I had read where, I don't know if it was the CEO or the CFO of Dell Corporation, actually said, if any of you attempt to apply to our corporation for a job and I've seen your face in any of these images, don't bother applying because we're not going to hire you. So again, this is the risk of exposure you do. And like you were saying, where your offline life is going to collide with your online life or vice versa. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And we're actually going to talk about that a little bit later when it comes to understanding your digital footprints, your digital dossiers. I mean, we do a lot of work with kids now, getting to understand that it's a big deal. But on the flip side, they can also use social media to leverage their position to get into a college or university or even a job. So next question I have for you. In a tweet you stated, summer is here, talk offline to your teens about the call-out culture and how it can impact their future. It's not only about adults anymore. Help them understand what it is. Can you explain what you meant here? It kind of dovetails into what we were just ending with on the last question. So go ahead, Sue.
That's funny. I don't even remember that tweet. But I can absolutely comment. I do remember it vaguely. First of all, the call-out culture can also be referenced as the cancel culture, which I find as a trend that I'm not fond of because it's really focused more on celebrities, brands, businesses. When they do something that's controversial and we just want to, black them out of our lives, and you're not going to use them anymore. You're going to boycott them, so to speak. But what's happening with the young people is they're using it as a way to punish someone, to harass them, to create ugliness about them. And what we have to remember is the internet is unforgiving. And this, again, is your online reputation. We have, this is really important, 70% of employers out there, what you were just talking about, that are going to scan your social media profile, platforms, not only of your content, but more importantly, your social media online behavior before they even call you back for an interview. And of that 70% that look at your social media platform, only, 57% of them, over half of them are not even called back because of something they posted or their behavior. And now more importantly to that is the American Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions said 75% of them will do a good scrub on your social media platforms too. And again, this is so important to remember that it's not only your social media content, it's your online behavior. Are you part of this call out culture? Are you someone that's feeding into this negativity? Or are you a target of it, and why? And this is what they're going to look at. What I try to explain to people, young and old, what we do online is a reflection of our character offline. And employers are looking at it, college admissions are looking at it, and it's definitely going to impact our future. So I think young people especially need to be completely aware of it and try not to get, I don't know that we need to be involved in every social justice thing that's going on online or politics or, sometimes it's better, I say, just to get offline and go have a good session of wine and wine with your friends, no devices needed.
It's, I can speak firsthand as a company, we're also hired by corporate entities to do background checks on individuals before they hire them, right? Because
Right.
if they want
Absolutely.
to know, is the person who's produced a paper resume actually the person who's reflected in what they're doing online, right? So
Absolutely.
we've done that several times. It's a service that we do because of what it is that we do. Number two, what's scary about universities, because you're right, many universities, especially in the United States, especially the Ivy League ones, are now doing social media checks as a part of the vetting process, right? Because you know what? They have 1,000 seats open in the School of Medicine, but they have 20,000 students applying. They got to weed it
Right.
out somehow, so they're
Right.
using social media to do that. But what's scary for me right now is that some universities are moving to an AI algorithm type of screening. And the issue I have with that is that AI can't read into context that
That's
the
right.
human can, right? So, you know,
Right.
you see a couple of pictures as a human that are, you know, but we have experience, we can put context into things. AI can't. But there are some universities that are moving to that. Why? Because it's cheaper, you don't have to pay somebody else to do what it is they're doing. But you're so right in today's world. Like it or not, the online world, everything you're doing in the online world is now public, permanent, searchable, exploitable, copyable, shareable, and usually it's all for sale. And never forget that rule. Never forget that rule is my
That's right.
message that I quote. Next question I have for you, again, it kind of dovetails nicely into the last question, which is everything posted online is public, permanent, searchable, exploitable, copyable, and shareable? How can one go about cleaning their digital dossier so things don't so things don't come back to haunt them? Interesting question. You kind of talk about it a little bit in your book.
Yeah.
You know, but let's hear it from you directly. I mean, like it or not, I just said everything is public, permanent, searchable, exploitable, copyable, shareable, and for sale. So if I posted some stuff online that, you know, when I was younger, I did some really dumb, stupid things. And so if it's there, a potential employer or university is going to see it, it could hurt me. So how do I go about fixing this?
Okay. Well, first of all, we're going to start today by becoming more mindful with what we do put online. That's the first thing. Number two is we need to, everyone talks about it, but they don't do it. Create your Google alerts. Your Google alerts is going to do a good scrub on every time your name is mentioned, whether it's in a blog or in a newspaper article, where it is. So this way you have a little bit of knowledge of where your name is. And, you know, again, everyone talks about this, but very few people actually do it. The other thing we want to do too is start publishing positive content out there about yourself. I have to tell you, when this hit me, when this, you know, online defamation stuff hit me, I was not prepared. You can't be like me and be like naked online is what I call it, because I had 4 or 5 pages of negative content. You know, Sue Scheff is a con. Sue Scheff is a child abuser. Sue Scheff kidnaps kids. This woman attacked me like I'd never been attacked. So it took me almost 2 years to clean up my online reputation and go back to work. That long. So I tell people, don't wait for that attack to happen. Start now with building up your online reputation. The other thing you really need to think about is what I tell people to do is the 20-40-60 rule. Before you post anything online, look at it through the eyes of a 20-year-old, a 40-year-old, and a 60-year-old. If you haven't offended any of those age groups, you should be pretty good. And that's where you want to also go back and review. Like about once a month, I'll review. I'm not posting a lot that much online anymore. I just have gotten to a point in my life where social media is not that important to me anymore. But like even with my kids, and my son doesn't post a lot either. He's 30 something, but my daughter overshares, and I'll say to her, stop. But and she's 30 something also. But look at these posts as if you're a 20-year-old, 40-year-old, 60-year-old, and make sure you're not offending. And even with the pictures, are you offending your grandmother, or you're offending your mother, or is it something that's a little bit too, you know, promiscuous? Stop it, remove it, take it off if it's questionable at all, because it will come back to haunt you someday. Because at 20 years old, you're a little bit more mature than you would be at 15. You're hoping, yeah, you're hoping. But yeah, and you know the other thing you can do is in my book. I'm not sure. I'm sure. I know you read it. Is the one online safety expert Tony Birdsong told us about is going back and retracking your likes. Because remember, every time you like something, you're endorsing it. So our likes change. So what you liked maybe 5 years ago is not something you're really, for today. So you can go through your Facebook activity log and even Twitter and start unliking some of this stuff. There might be like maybe a political thing or maybe an image that, really doesn't portray who you are anymore and you liked it. Go back there and go through your activity. It's a tedious work, but it might be worth it.
You know what? I love your recommendation on Google Alerts. I also recommend to use talkwalkers as well at the same time. We find that talkwalkers will pick up on stuff that Google Alerts doesn't, and Google Alerts will pick up on stuff that talkwalkers doesn't. So from a branding and reputation standpoint, it's a really good way to keep and manage. And it's free, much like Google Alerts is. The second thing is, go ahead.
I was going to give you one more.
Yep.
Reputation Defender report card, completely free. reputationdefender.com/report card gives you a deep scan on your online reputation. And that'll give you, it's completely free.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to bring to the attention of everybody is when you Google yourself, make sure you do it incognito or in private mode. And the reason is because we want to remove that filter bubble, right? Because what you see, if you just Google your name on your home computer or your PC or your phone, you've got a filter bubble already built in there. So you want to see what others are going to see. So make sure you Google your name in the incognito or in the private mode to do that. So what was that site that you were talking?
It's reputationdefender.com/report card.
There you go.
And you'll get a free deep search on your name, so you have a good idea of it.
Yeah,
and for those that don't know me, and I'm not getting paid for any of this. I am a spokesperson for Reputation Defender, and I'm not paid because they are the ones that recovered me. Back in 2006. Like I said, Lady Justice cleared my name, but the internet never forgets. And I was one of their very first clients. And Reputation Defender is now huge today. But back then they were just 5 people. I don't know if you know reputation.com.
I do. In fact, we do something similar for students that are moving on, especially into Ivy League college and universities. Brandon and I, because of our status, I have the ability to search both the light web and the deep web. So we can actually do a deep dive on both light and dark web so that the student knows everything that is out there so that we can bring it to their attention so that when they go in for their interview, they're not caught by surprise. But like you, we also teach them, go through your sites now. We say starting grade 10 or 11, start deleting that stuff when you were 13 that you really don't believe now, but also start to bury the rest of it. And you bury it by creating a really good, your own website. You join 7 different apps that we recommend and sites to help build your digital dossier so when people Google you, you appear on the first page of Google, which is really important. And I think Defender kind of recommends the same thing.
Yes,
which
they do.
kind of brings into the next question I have for you, which is there a difference between your online brand and your online reputation? If there is, what is the difference, and why is it important for youth to understand in today's online world? Let's hear. Is there a difference between the two?
Very slim. Well, your online brand is what you're known for. Your online reputation is what you're credible for. So we look at an online brand and you think of Patagonian. Patagonian is known for their great outdoor wear, right? Their durability. Nike is known for their athletic wear. As far as your reputation is what you're trustworthy for, what you're credible for. Brands are is more when we're looking at businesses and sometimes a celebrity. I don't think that, it's a very slight difference, but you still want both your brand and your reputation to be positive, right? What happens is when your brand is tarnished, like what we've seen has happened to some, I'm not going to go into, and we're not going to the next, but anyway, but online reputation, I think, is what is first and foremost. Branding can make you relevant, but it's your online reputation that really makes you credible. And that's where people really need to focus today, is their online reputation. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Your first impression today is what Google or the internet is saying about you. So this is really what, especially young people, need to worry about today. And that's why what you and I were both saying, you really need to think about what you're doing before you put anything online. And especially with that call-out culture too, before you start arguing or getting on one side of the fence, whatever side of the fence that is, pause and really think, is it really that important? Do I want this to be in my digital legacy, my digital history? Is it really worth it? Most of the times it's not.
Yeah, absolutely, on those issues. And what's interesting now too is how frenemies, or what we call frenemies, can destroy your reputation. Here's a really good example. We were working with a family just recently. Son is in grade 11, just won an NCAA Division I football scholarship. So he's Canadian. He won a scholarship down to University of Arizona in the States. One of his fellow football players didn't get the scholarship. He was so mad that his friend got the scholarship that he actually had a video of his friend smoking a marijuana joint.
Oh my
that
God.
He actually sent it to the University of Arizona to go, hey, listen, this guy that you just gave a scholarship to is a drug user. You may want to think twice. Now, thank God the University of Arizona did the right thing, phoned up to the parents of the young man who won the scholarship and say, hey, listen, we got sent this video. Can we talk about this? And it turns out it was a first time he had ever tried it on a football trip with a bunch of his friends. And one of his friends, unknown to him, was kind of videotaping everybody smoking it and then used it as a weapon. He weaponized it, right? So a really good example where you could be doing everything right to create a really good digital dossier brand of yourself, and all it takes is a frenemy or even somebody you don't know to ruin it. And that's why Google Alerts and talkwalkers would be so important, right?
Absolutely. I'm going to look up that talkwalkers. I had not heard of that.
Yeah, talkwalkers.
Yeah.
It's just great. Next question I have for you, Sue, is it more of a concern about what Google knows about us, or is it more concerning about what we are putting out there for Google to index? Good question. Let's hear the answer.
No, great question. Both. Everyone needs to keep this in mind. Whether you go to register to vote, whether you buy property or real estate, whether you get a driver's license, you are automatically in the digital world, whether you want to be or not. My parents are, my grandparents passed away. They were. So, again, whether you own technology or not, we all have a digital record. Now, social media, it's up to us on what we give Google at that point. What are we putting into Facebook? What are we telling them? Twitter, Instagram, etc. And then, especially during COVID, how many people out there are using Netflix? How many people are using, Hulu? So now we're telling the internet what movies we like. Even more now, people are online shopping and getting groceries. So now we know what food everybody likes. So at the end of the day, whether they get the information just from public records or they're getting it because we're giving it to them, there is zero privacy anymore. We really have to understand that. So it just reiterates the fact that we have to be extremely careful with what we do with our devices. It's just clear and simple, I think. And you also have to remember this too. Even if you think it's private, it's not private. Even those HTTPS, which I hope and pray when we put our credit card in and everything like that is private. But how many times have we seen, sites get hacked? The Ashley Madison, that was huge. Everyone remembers that. Sometimes banks get hacked. We know that. Thank God no one's lost a lot of money. But we just need to be extremely careful with content that we put on the internet. But again, I just think that it's concerning all the way around, but it comes back to us and our choices of what we want to give Google, besides the fact that we already automatically have a digital record.
Google's free for a reason, right? Like, they got to make their money somehow. But with convenience comes vulnerability, right? Like, technology is convenient, right? But what's under the biggest attack is our privacy. A really good example, one of the things I shared with families was that a lot of shopping, like grocery stores, you go in, they have the gift cards, and you swipe, you get points. Well, as soon as they swipe that card, it's just recorded everything that you've just purchased in your in your cart. Well, that is now being sold. So let's say you're a family who's now applying for life insurance. I do some online searching of what it is you're doing, and I find that you buy cigarettes, tobacco, ice cream, candy, junk food. Well, maybe the insurance I'm going to offer you as a carrier is going to be far more expensive than somebody who eats fruits, vegetables, you know, who's like, people
Great
don't
example.
think
Yeah.
about this kind of stuff, right? And
Right.
but again, it's that disinhibition effect I think that the internet and the screens give us, right? Is that,
Right.
you know, it's not a big deal, you know, I'm just sharing it, who cares, and blah, blah, blah. Well, you should be caring, right? Because
Well, how many times has this happened to you? You jump on Facebook. You were just on Eddie Bauer purchasing flip flops, or just you didn't buy them yet, but you're just looking at them. You're considering. Now you're on Facebook, and those exact flip flops are coming down the side of your screen.
yeah.
I mean, that's like, oh, really? You know. So,
But with
yeah,
convenience comes vulnerability. Yeah, but there's no doubt that technology has made our life more convenient, right? There's no doubt about it.
No doubt.
But
no doubt.
with that comes vulnerability, especially to our privacy, right? Especially our private lives. Next
Right.
question. Do people have the right to be forgotten, is my question to you.
Yes. Do people have the right to be forgotten? Now, if you had asked me that question before I wrote Shame Nation, I would have said, absolutely, hands down, let's throw it all out the window, and they absolutely should have it. In writing Shame Nation, I interviewed internet security expert, Teresa Payton. Wonderful. If you never interviewed her, you should interview. She just had her like third or fourth book come out. And she made this comment that really challenged me. And for now, forever forward, as a matter of fact, even Reputation Defender wanted me to do a campaign for them for the right to be forgotten. I said, you know what? I can't, because now I have a different opinion. And this is what Teresa said, and I know you read the book, so you probably know it. One person's right to be forgotten is another person's right to be remembered. Now, with this being said, I do believe in the right to be forgotten, but every case is different. And I'm really glad that Europe is looking at each case individually. Because let's look at it this way. Let's say that you were interviewed in a newspaper article on research you had done or something that you had done, but yet there was another person who just filed to have their name to be forgotten. And they were mentioned in that article also, but in a negative light or whatever, but they want it pulled. So now that article that you shine in is going to be eliminated because that person was wrongfully mentioned in it. So who wins? So again, it's something that you now, on the flip side of that, you have, people that were convicted of a crime that was maybe overturned because of, the Innocence Project and DNA samples or whatever. Of course, they have a right to be forgotten. Mm-hmm. Or I see cases where divorce papers have gotten out there, maybe that shouldn't be out there, personal information the kids shouldn't be reading or whatever. Yes, that should be removed. Again, each case should be looked at individually. And that's my opinion.
I think that it should be case dependent.
Good, thank you.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
I truly do believe that. Context is everything. I think it should be case dependent. And I think it's much deeper than just a yes or no question. And that's why I asked. Yeah. That's why I asked it, right? Okay. And one of the reasons I asked some of these questions is I want to drill down deeper on discussions, right? And this is a really good, because as you know, this is a big deal right now in Europe, the right to be forgotten, the right to be forgotten, the right to be forgotten, right? And, and you hear a lot of young kids, when I say kids, I mean youth, talking about they would like to have a right to be forgotten, right? Because they want to be kids online, because today's online world to them is totally different than what it was when we were growing up, right? They don't have the same consequences associated with it, right? So there's just, it's more nuanced than just a yes or no question, right? And that's why I love asking it. But like you, I believe it's context dependent. I truly do believe that. I don't think we can say yes or no to that. It's kind of like some of the discussions right now that are going on about full end-to-end encryption, right? For privacy purposes, right? Where everything will be encrypted. Personally, I'm against that. And the reason I'm against that is because now we give another footing for the criminal element, like pedophiles, to do what they're doing without it being recognized by the internet service providers to bring it to the attention of the police. Because right now, many of the internet service providers work with law enforcement to provide them with that information when they see it. Well, if we move to end-to-end encryption, they now have an out to say, well, we didn't even know what was going on. So how could we have notified the police, right? So again, it's a lot of these discussions aren't so black and white. It takes for, and some people disagree with me. They think, well, yeah, but privacy is king. And I'm a privacy hawk. I am. I'm very much a privacy hawk. But there's got to be a limit, right, with respect to where does the privacy now protect those who are victimizing others without any kind of reproach. Thoughts? Any thoughts on that?
Where does what the privacy?
Or does privacy have to kind of say, okay, you need to stop now because we are now giving the criminal element through end-to-end encryption of all this stuff playgrounds to do whatever they want to do without being caught. What do you think?
I don't know, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I don't know where the limits are as far as privacy goes. There are no boundaries on the internet. I think that's something that we need to drill in, especially to the young people, because they continue to and I have to tell you something. It's not just the young people.
Oh, no.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever gone down, Facebook and you see parents putting just too much information out there. And I just find it appalling, to be honest with you.
Well,
and
one of the things
using, and even if you use and I know Richard Geary is one of my favorite people
Good
ever.
guy.
And he will tell you can use the most heightened security on your systems, on your, platforms. It doesn't matter. Stuff still gets out. So, I think it comes back to all of us making that decision right from the get-go not to overshare. I mean, that's where it starts. And if you're on these platforms, I think you could start by just making small groups. Believe it or not, the entire world doesn't need to see your baby pictures or your wedding pictures. Go back to just limiting to your family members, but then you remember you're always going to risk somebody taking it off and sharing it with this one and sharing it with this one. And that's, again, it's a risk.
That point is something that I talk to parents about all the time, known as sharenting, right? And, pictures that are funny and cute to you today may not be to your child when all of a sudden they're in middle school and they're now being weaponized.
And I wrote about that in Shame Nation. I just have a real beef with all of that. I just do.
And so you should, right? So you should. And, that's something that I bring to the attention of parents. But, a lot of times the parents just didn't understand the consequences. And neither did we until we started to see this stuff happening. And now we bring in, common sense is not common unless you know about it, right? And so the more we educate on this issue of sharenting, I think we're starting to see a change now in this generation. Because this generation of parents, like the boomers, we didn't have parents to depend upon to learn from their mistakes because they weren't in this world, right? So, but, our son, Brandon, he's 26. If he ever has kids one day, he says he's not. But, because because of who he is and where he was risen in today's online world, he has that experience behind him that he can now share and understand what to do and what not to do. But the oversharing, it's like sexting. A lot of people say kids are out of control. Trust me, they're not as out of control as what people. But adults, OMG, I have more issues with adults sexting that I'm dealing with as a company than I do kids.
It's going to bring you into your next question, by the way, because
so here we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Next question. How do you think politics in your country are affecting bullying and shaming? Have we reached an age of incivility as an acceptable norm? How do we regain civility when leaders don't even try? Like, I'm an outsider looking in. I'm Canadian, the Great White North. But I go into schools, into businesses talking about bullying, both in Canada and the United States. I'm big into Washington State, Oregon, the Pacific Northwest. And it absolutely, I get so frustrated when I talk about this. And then I get the kids approaching me going, well, Donald Trump likes to label people. And look at him. He's the president, right? And all this kind of stuff. So this has got to be an issue that you're getting lots of questions being bombarded at you as well, because we're trying to preach the positive stuff of what to do using social media, But we see what's going on in politics in my country as well. We're not innocent as well, right? Things that are going on where it's being weaponized. So let's hear some of your thoughts. You're welcome.
Oh, great question. Well, first of all, let's make it perfectly clear. Bullying, shaming, online bullying, harassing, stalking, cyber stalking, hate, online hate. It's been going on for years. But what's happened is over the past 4 to 6 years, it's become magnified. And why has it become magnified? Because we do have a bullying chief, a leader of the land that it makes it his mission, I guess, to call people names, to call people out. But I'm still of the philosophy that the greatest influence in our kids' life and our young people's life is their parents. And I mean, I'm sure in the field that you're in, you know this. You've seen surveys that have said this over and over again.
No doubt.
So at the end of the day, civility starts with us. It starts at home. I think it's really smart for parents to actually look at these tweets, to look at this behavior, and actually talk to their kids about it and say, you know what? He may be the president or he may be, the leader of the land, but this is not how we behave online. This is not how we behave in our household. But what's most important here is the parents, the teachers, other adults, mature adults, even like there's, whether they're doctors or lawyers or whatever. I have presentations that will show this, that go out there and retweet his stuff or like his stuff, endorse his stuff. I think you almost have to be more concerned about that than what he is doing. I think we're almost putting a little bit too much focus on the leader and then rather than who we should be concerned about, and that's the parents and the teachers and the other people that our kids are really looking up to. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I absolutely do. I mean, another question I have for you, let's say, because I think your election is in November, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. I think. Let's say in November you have a different president come in. Do you think you're going to be able to pivot as quickly as what people are thinking specifically on this issue? Or do you think that there's been so much incivility over the past 4 to 6 years, as you said, that it's going to take a while for us to kind of refocus? Because, I do agree with you. Parents, all the research shows us that parents are the best role models for kids. Right. They even outrank teachers, right? We are our kids' best role models, right? And this is why parents have got to be our kids' best parent and not their best friend. There's a difference between the two, right?
Thank you.
So, but, do you think we've got a long time now to recover? If the Band-Aid is ripped off, do you think we're going to have a long time to recover with regards to civility?
Do you want my opinion? My opinion is whether he wins or loses come November, hostility is still going to be extremely hot online because he has some really staunch supporters. Staunch. I mean, these people are, look at every time he tweets something, the support is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. That's not going to go away. I'm not convinced that, I'm just not convinced the hate is going to go away that quickly. As much as people want change, you still have, almost half of the country is in support, and they don't look at it as to me, it's like they both are haters on both sides, because I'm going to tell you, and I'm not getting political. I stay right in the middle. I think both sides are wrong, in my opinion. When I see someone going after Trump is just as wrong as someone going after whoever the other side is, because it's Biden, Sanders, whoever it's going to be. It is Biden, I think. I can't stand politics. Yeah. But anyway, I don't like discussing politics. But I'm just saying, I think any adult that engages in online hate, even if it's in politics, if you can't say something nice, just don't say it at all. Don't encourage, like in 2016, when I had all those mean memes coming down for Donald Trump or for Hillary Clinton, I didn't unfriend somebody, I unfollowed them. because I don't want to see, and I do vote, by the way. I don't want people sitting back. Don't you vote? Yes, I do vote. I will write in a candidate if I don't like either one of the candidates, but I will vote. And I know people say, well, I don't care. I'm just saying that I don't believe any adult should engage in any hate on any side of the, even for Donald Trump. I would not encourage a parent, a teacher, anybody to write something hateful about him. I just wouldn't. I would take the high road. I'd say, you know what? This is not how adults act. This is not how we act in our household, and show the kids what we should do instead. Now, if you don't like somebody or the way someone dresses or the way someone acts, you never call them a name like this. Yeah. And give them something to do instead. It's deconstruct.
You gave, I think you gave a little nugget there that you may not realize, but you said it was there even 6 years ago before this. Like it's always been. Here's what you don't know. In Canada, you think we're this big friendly country. We have over 300 hate right extremist groups in our country, right? But what has happened over the past 4 years is, I think because of social media, it has shone a light on this and don't take this, it's shined it in a positive way, which allows these groups who were covert in nature to become more overt in nature, because they believe that they have the blessing of those who are in power, both in your country and my country, to do things that they normally wouldn't have come public to do because of afraid of being scrutinized and being targeted. But I think that's I think you had a little nugget, but I see you want to kind of build on that.
One positive thing here. Over the past several years, we've seen more social platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram step up to the plate.
Finally, yeah.
Encouraging people to report hate, removing hate. You see that people learning how to use I use the mute button, the block button. I mean, we didn't see this in years prior.
Yeah.
So we do have to thank the Donald Trump so much for I think encouraging the platforms to put out this social awareness and help these platforms, because we've been yelling and screaming at like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to do something about cyberbullying. We really have. You've been in this field a long time. You know that we've been fighting online hate for years. Yep. And it wasn't until he came onto the platform that we finally saw these social platforms doing something about it. Well, and we haven't even talked about misinformation yet.
I think what has happened with that, though, is I think what it has done is it's really shone a light on how these social platforms that have monopolies can really boost that type of behavior. And now what has happened as a result of that, especially in the US, there are the Congress, your Senate are now looking at saying, you know what, internet service providers, vendors, we've given you lots of leeway to kind of do this stuff and police yourselves. You're not doing it. So you know what? We're thinking about breaking you up. We're thinking about legislating you, and we're thinking about fining you. Because the only thing that is going to change them is their pocketbooks. Right? That if it's going to cost them big money, a $500 million fine to Facebook, that's nothing to them. But if it's significant in nature, if there's a real risk that the company's going to be broken up because they're just too big doing what it is they're doing. So now they're going, well, maybe we should be doing this kind of stuff now in a positive way, because if we don't, bad things are going to happen to us as a company, what's going to affect our shareholders. Right? So yeah, and and then misinformation and disinformation that is going on out there, right?
Right.
Did you want to build upon the misinformation? No. Okay. Next question I have for you. Have you seen any positives coming out of social media as a result of COVID-19? Me personally, it has been amazing to see what the kids are doing online to stay socially connected while they physically distance from one another. And I have never in my life, when I went out for walks with my wife, but now when I'm walking out with COVID, I see more kids outside riding bicycles, playing games, playing tapscotch, going for walks, going for bicycle rides. I'm seeing all kinds of positive things coming out of COVID. COVID is a bad thing for your country, my country, the world, right? What's going on, right? But have you seen any positives coming out of this yourself?
Well, yeah. I mean, everything you said and then some. I mean, we have more kids out riding the bike. I live on the beach, so our beaches are open for anyone that wants to know. But I think what's also really great is a lot of seniors have actually learned how to use technology, which is great. You know, I don't think there's anything seniors need to step up and get on Facebook because they're not able to visit with their relatives in
Right.
person. So you have people that have been teaching them how to sign up for, you know, whether it's Zoom. I mean, look at, wouldn't we love to have stock in Zoom now? Whether it's Zoom or Facebook, things that they were always afraid to get, you know, to become part of, now they're part of. So I think we're seeing a lot more people becoming engaged in social media, which is great. The other thing I think, with a lot of people that have lost their jobs over this, we've now seen people. I know a few people in my local area that have actually like started little companies, online businesses, which is cool, right? You find a different types of online businesses to start. One started a sign company where she actually put signs up in her yard, in people's yard, like during these birthday celebrations, I should say graduations, birthdays, when you have to social distance and do the drive-bys. She was making these big posters. What a great idea. Who would have thought? So there's a lot of creativity coming out on social media, and I think a lot of us are seeing that. And I think that's cool too. You're able to share, you know, your graduation with not only just people locally, but, you know, worldwide.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, it's just really cool. You know, more seniors are getting online. Having said that, now as a result of that, the criminal element has now recognized that, and they're now targeting them for more
I
online
know.
fraud and things, right? Like yin and
Right.
yang. So, you know,
Yeah.
with our seniors getting online also comes the ability to educate them about how to keep their, you know, privacy, you know, their hard-earned retirement dollars in
I
their
know.
pockets.
We're always going to have the good and the bad, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Sue, any final thoughts on anything that we covered in today's presentation or anything else that you wanted to say before we end?
You know, I want to say, you know, during COVID, we've seen, you know, a lot of people stressed out, frustrated, just really apprehensive, and you just have to remember, you know, this anger, it's temporary, but what you do online is forever. So you really need to take the time to stop and consider what you post online. But more importantly, remember that you can put the devices away and go outside and take a walk with a friend 6 feet apart. We don't have to be online. I mean, just because we're talking about it, go out. This is really a great time, like you just said, to get out and meet your neighbors 6 feet apart. And that's been another, I think, real asset or attribute to COVID, is getting to meet neighbors that you never met before because everyone's working from home.
Yeah, great comment. So if you want to hold tight, we'll talk to you just in a little bit here after I do my closing, just to do a debrief. So I'm just going to head over to my closing now. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Wow, great interview. Pick up Sue's book, Shame Nation. You will not be disappointed in the work that she's done on this, and you know the story she tells and the options that she gives to help deal with some of these issues. Just a really good book. Again, head to our website, go under resources, parents, you'll find it there. So on behalf of myself, I'm Darren. Brand who's working in the control booth. He makes all this magic happen. Thank you for coming to today's Thinkable Thursday, and we'll see you next time. Bye.